Could this be the best consumer camera of 2023? Think about this for a second. Sony FX30, cinema-grade APS-C camera, 4K 120, 4K 60 internal, S-Log3. Then you have the autofocusing system of the A7R IV, AI. Then you have some of the new features we've never seen in a Sony camera before in the ZV-E1 in this camera system. You put all those three together, you now have the Sony A6700. And I think for a lot of you who are on a budget, who are looking for a camera system that is going to give you great video and great photography at a very good price, this is a camera that's hard to pass up. I'm not paid or sponsored by Sony. I don't keep the camera, it goes right back to them. By the time you're watching this, it's probably on the way back to them already. So these are my thoughts and my thoughts only. So let's talk about this A6700. Now, this is their new flagship APS-C camera in terms of the alpha range. Of course, you have the cinema line, the FX30, that's a different beast. But is it? We're going to talk about that. You're getting all those attributes out of the three cameras that I just mentioned, which makes this so good for the price point. In Singapore, it's around 2,000 Singapore dollars, which is probably going to be around 1,500 US dollars thereabouts. And you guys will know the price when it launches on the date of this video. You know, if you wanted almost the perfect small compact camera system to take with you for video and for photography, this could be it. Now, this is not going to be for every photographic application out there, okay? This is not going to have the speeds of the Alpha 1 or an A9 II. It's not designed for that, but it's going to take really good stills. 26 megapixel sensor, APS-C, 2 megapixels more than the A6600. Again, it's kind of a wash when you're comparing that, but it has the new processor, that new subject detection that we saw on the A7R IV, that new autofocusing algorithm. I was using these cameras next to each other at the zoo. I was testing out the new 70-200 f4 OSS macro lens. By the way, I have a separate video on that. It's an awesome lens in case you want to, check that out, but it is fantastic. I was using that on the A7R IV. I was using the 70-200 f2.8 version 2 on this camera, and the autofocusing was exactly the same. Eye detection, animal detection, insect detection, it was on point. Then we get into video. I actually recorded a lot of video at the zoo, by the way, but because of the stabilization, which we'll talk about in just a bit, I'm recording a lot of this in the studio to make up for that because I didn't want to hear all the talk. Why was it a little bit shaky? We'll get into that in just a bit, but the video, autofocus, eye tracking, locks on. I don't have to worry. No matter how much you're spending on a camera, you want a camera system that you can rely on, especially for video. I don't want distractions from grabbing other people or grabbing other subjects while I'm talking and walking. Then all of a sudden, I look at the footage when I'm editing it and I can't use certain clips because I'm out of focus. I don't have to worry about that with the system. Eye tracking locks on like glue. S-Log3, better ISO performance. I don't have to worry about the image quality out of this camera system. I'm recording straight out of camera. There is no log to this, no profile. It is just straight out of camera. And I think I look pretty okay in terms of skin tone. In terms of ports, now you have a headphone jack, you have a mic jack, you have a micro HDMI, and you have USB-C for charging as well if you want to do that, or data transfer. So that's all included. You have one UHS 2 card slot. I was hoping they would have a CF Express Type A card slot. One of those double card slots like they have on the A7R V and the Alpha 1, et cetera, because it's one slot and you can put two kind of cards inside, but they don't. UHS 2 only. I guess they're trying to keep this more consumer and not fight with the FX30 in that way, but it is what it is. I have to say, battery life has been relatively decent with this camera system, shooting video, shooting photos. I mean, I can shoot a lot of content, no issues at all. Any problems with overheating? Not that I've seen. I shoot 4K 30 primarily most of the time. I've done some 4K 120, which I'll show you a little bit of samples here of my dog and her training session at the pool. She was adorable. And actually, while I was editing this video, it was very funny. She came into the room and she saw herself on the screen and she was like whining and super happy, but I digress. There was no overheating signs whatsoever. And you know what? Here's the thing about that, by the way. A lot of the reviewers out there are, shooting 4K 120 for a longer period of time than you're going to shoot 4K 120. Are you going to be rolling your camera for 2 to 3 hours at a go? Chances are probably not. I mean, if you're going to be doing it for a documentary, then you're probably going to need a larger camera anyway. But for the average person out there shooting 15, 20-minute videos like I'm doing here for this channel, or want to shoot a little bit of clips for social media, this camera is more than adequate and you're not going to have to worry about that. Will the camera get hot? Yes, it gets warm, but any camera shooting at 4K and beyond gets warm. It just happens. And I live in Singapore, by the way, so I've been testing this out. It's hot and humid year-round here, so we're a really good place of testing overheating and no issues at all with it. Also, EVF on the back of this now. It is, well, it's kind of the same EVF. I think it may have a higher refresh rate. I don't have an A6600 or A6400 with me to compare it to, but it is a 2.36 million dot OLED EVF, but it's very, very, very small. This is one of my nitpicks with this camera system. It's got so many great things going for it, but why such a small EVF? I mean, they did this with the A7C, and I was like, why, Sony? Why? I guess they're thinking to themselves, look, people are going to use the rear display. By the way, it flips out and rotates, but it's not the same as the A7R IV. It just flips out and rotates, okay? It doesn't up and down kind of a thing, can't do that. But why such a small EVF? I like to hold the camera to my face and take a photo, but I have to squint really bad. And then the diopter, little dial, is recessed in, and you really got to push your finger in there to twist that thing. It's not easy to go. I thought you could push it in and pop out. You could twist the dial and push it back in. No. Nope. You got to take your finger down. You got to just turn it ever so slightly just to get your settings correct. But to their credit, the EVF is good. Even though it's 2.36 million dot EVF, high refresh rate, very bright, no issues at all. I was at the zoo shooting with it. I was happy with it. Let's talk about some of the new features that are inside of this that also kind of carry over from the ZVE1. They have the auto framing detection here, which is really cool because if you're, shooting yourself, let's say you're on sticks, for example, or tripod, you frame yourself. As you move, it will track you. And I'll kind of give you a sample of what it does right now. But there's a caveat to this. You cannot adjust the stabilization. And if you want to drop this in the Catalyst browse, if you're using auto framing, you cannot stabilize in that software. You're on your own. So if you're going to walk and talk and use that, it's going to be a bit shaky. That leads me into the stabilization. Now, there is active stabilization in this, and the way that they were talking about it, I thought it was going to be very similar to the whole, I think it's called dynamic stabilization in the ZVE1. It isn't. It's still going to be shaky. Now, you can stabilize active in Catalyst browse, and it does work relatively well, but you got to take into account the crop factor. But it is something to be aware of. Also, I want to talk about this new mic that I was testing out on the A6700. It is called the ECM-M1. Now, this is a smaller kind of a shotgun mic that goes on top of the camera system. It goes into the multimedia hot shoe there. That means you don't need any battery, no cables. It automatically connects. The audio out of this is really good, and it's very versatile because you can adjust how the audio is being picked up. Front and back, sides, all around, stereo, got noise cancellation on it. It works really well. Here's some sample audio and footage with the microphone. Check it out. Let's also talk about this new mic here, this ECM-M1 mic. Now, this is small, compact, no wires, no batteries needed. And one thing I like about it, you can adjust how the audio is being picked up. In front of me, I can go front and behind. So if I want to do a product shot, let me show you what I'm talking about right now. So I'm now behind the microphone talking about this beautiful plant here. And so it's picking up the audio from the front and from the behind on this as well. And this is audio level set on auto, so it's going to adjust so it doesn't peak or doesn't pop. And I got a little dead cat on top of this as well. And yeah, so you can hear this out. So if you want to talk about products, you want to talk about things as you're walking around and touching these things, going, oh, look how beautiful this is. Look at the raindrops there, how awesome this looks. I'm just making up stuff, guys, but it's just giving you an idea of the audio that comes out of this. The only thing I would say, it'd be nice if the controllers were on the front, so you could just turn the dial here versus having to go from behind and turn it. But I guess Sony's thinking, hey, you're going to hit stop recording and fix the mic anyway, right? Possibly so, but it'd be nice to actually adjust on the front. That's my only issue with it. Otherwise, the audio quality out of it is really good, and the size, it's very, very lightweight. Well, I really like this camera system. I think the features are really good, especially for the price point. 4K 120, 4K 60 internal. You got 10-bit 422, S-Log 3, but all of these things that you would want if you want to do some, semi-professional video, you can do it with this. And then you move over to the photography, and you've got really good features in that as well. The eye tracking, the subject detection, it's there. I mean, of course that works for video as well, but it's there for you. I really can't fault this camera. I mean, obviously we're nitpicking EVF and, a couple of the things with stabilization, but for the most part, for the price point, as I mentioned at the top of this video, I think Sony maybe have the best consumer camera of 2023. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know, what do you think about this? Are you looking to pick this up? Or are you thinking to yourself, hey, wait a second, for the price point, I just want to do video, do I go ZVE1 or do I go A6700? And that's a valid question. If you're going to go full into video, I don't know. Could be the ZVE1 full frame. I mean, Sony has more full frame lenses than APS-C lenses for that matter. But if you want a good hybrid, the ZVE1 doesn't have an EVF and it doesn't have a mechanical shutter. So something to think about. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on this camera. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you like this video? Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, more content coming your way. Thanks again for the support, and I will chat to you soon.